Okay, good morning, everybody. I'll call the meeting of the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District to order. So virtually we have Commissioners Clark and Freeze, and then Commissioner Murphy is out. That leaves the remaining commissioners in the room. That's Commissioners Lankala, Bookland, Havel, Paltz, Meyer, and Lytle. So for anybody that's online or wishes to know what's what. Okay, welcome to any of our guests that are online or here in the room. And virtual meeting guidance, Cassie?
Good morning, Commissioners, members of the public, and staff. To help us have a smooth meeting, I'm going to review just a few decorum rules for all. While the Commission and staff are in person, we are still offering a Zoom option so members of the public can attend. If you are attending virtually and would like to speak, you can do so during appearances by the public. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube, and the public chat has been disabled, but you can still send messages to the host if need be. Finally, Commissioners, please use your microphones while speaking and make sure your voice is directed towards the mic. When you're not speaking, please ensure your mic is off so others can utilize the mics. As a reminder, only 3 of the table mics can be live at a time. Also, please state your name before speaking for those who may be joining us via Zoom. Those are the decorum rules of the District Commission. Thank you for following them, and let's have a great meeting.
Thank you, Cassie. No announcements? Any appearances by the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Consent calendar. We have the meeting minutes of the February 26th. We have the capital fund cash statement, 2 sewer extension plans, both in the city of Madison, proposals and award a contract for 2026 Metro Grow hauling, acceptance of work for the Southeast Interceptor rehabilitation on Highway 51, acceptance of work Pump Station 17 Force Main Relief Phase 2, review of bids and award a contract for digester cleaning, excuse me, review bids and award a contract Lagoon Dike Improvement Project, Phase 2, approved transaction amount and approved professional services agreement amendment for Lagoon Dike Improvements Project. Anybody have any questions on any of the items? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Commissioner Lytle, I'll move approval.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Lytle, second by
Commissioner Lankala, second.
Second by Commissioner Lankala. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay. That will take us to topics. The first one is the authorization for addition of Pump Station 2 Force Main Condition Assessment to the 2026 capital project budget. And we have our friend Theron here who's used to dealing with breaks and force mains.
Good morning, everyone. There is some positive news. I did bring a pipe under the consent calendar that had positive news for acceptance, so it's not all bad news when you see me. But Theron Jacobson, project engineer with the district, so I'm here to talk about the Pumping Station 2 Force Main Condition Assessment to be added to the budget. So what I want to do is frame this as orange button, Amanda, correct? And the what, the where, and the why. So the what, we've already defined that. Pumping Station 2 Force Main. Not working. Pumping Station 2 Force Main. The where. So Pumping Station 2 Force Main starts at Brittingham Park. It's on the west end of Monona Bay for anyone that likes surface waters. Goes along South Shore Drive, Olin Drive, along John Nolan Drive, the Capital City Bike Trail, and then the headworks at the plant. So if you follow the red line from the furthest in the background, closest to us on the plant grounds. And the discovery of the pipe repair site or the pipe break at the repair site is along the Capital City Trail that occurred in August and had the permanent repair back in October. So if you ride that trail, there's kind of a tree that's at the substation, roughly where that work site was. So the what, where, and now the why. Discovery of pipe corrosion during the pipe repair. So past action items that were discussed previously by Eric Rare, Maintenance and Reliability Manager, on October 16th of 2025. We're going to analyze soil and groundwater samples, which were done by our lab and a third-party lab. We also sent pipe samples to American Pipe, which is the original supplier of the pipe, and Ductile Iron Pipe Research Association, and also took many photos, other documentation, wall measurements of the pipe, and you can see the 3 pipe samples that are sitting on the tailgate and the lower bottom. Those are what were sent for visual analysis, and there's just other photos along here. You can see that doesn't look ideal. So preliminary findings, we ultimately have an environment with corrosive indicators. And what those are is, low soil resistivity. We got some microbial influence corrosion based on the lab analysis, high moisture content, and then also fluctuating groundwater tables, and then a wetland environment, which wetlands equals wet. And the one thing we know we have pipe wall loss. So that is one photo too many. So what we have is we did some pit measurements on the wall. So the wall actually is about 7/16 of an inch thick. Some of the measurements we got were roughly 3/8 of an inch. So we got a 1/16 of an inch of structural wall left in some of the locations on the pipe that we took out. That right there is a view of where the pipe break was. So that is completely open, but it has the band on it. That's why you can't see through it after we removed it. Keynote, the only information that we have is of the 40 feet that was exposed at the repair site. Of the 17,000 plus feet of this force main is unknown. So all our findings are at this location. So corrosion, what are the unknowns? What is the true root cause of the pipe corrosion? You can see the pitting there on the pipe in that photo. What are the extents? Is it isolated at the repair location or just a little bit spread from there? Or is it even more widespread? Does it go up near pumping station 4? Does it come closer to headworks near the plant? Is it up by Brittingham Park too? Those are the unknowns. That's what we need to find. And the sources. Through conversations, it keeps coming back to stray electrical current from other utility crossings, gas crossings that are steel, or is it other electrical crossings? And is that a stray electrical current jumping onto this pipe, and then with the low soil resistivity, is it hopping off? And that's where those burn marks can come from on the exterior of the pipe. So the intended scope, but what I want to highlight first is the pipe on the left is the new pipe that was put in during the repair. You can see that nice, smooth exterior wall versus the pipe that was removed. That's got the pitting and the corrosion on the outside, which is not ideal. So ultimately, our intended scope here, get a technical corrosion expert to help us guide along this. They do this every day. Let's utilize their resources. Desktop review of the knowns that we have, all the data that we've collected through this repair, and then past records of the existing pipe. Develop that work plan for the investigation, and then ultimately get the field condition assessment of the environment. So what's going on the outside that could be causing these challenges, and then get the full condition assessment for the interior and some preliminary engineering done to find out, okay, where are the extents to help us guide us through. Do we need to do replacement? Can we do more point repairs, or do we do a rehab? And next steps, schedule would be to develop that RFP for the consultants and that work plan, and assuming authorization here, and then field condition assessment. So the exterior, those will all occur in 2026, and that full condition assessment later on this year after the findings of the previous two. and that work continue into 2027. And just as a note too, we did procure some extra parts just in case we have to deal with a pipe repair. We don't want to, but at least we're prepared for it. I will take any questions at this point.
Commissioner Bookland?
Two questions, I guess. One is, how old are these pipes, and what is their expected lifespan?
This pipe was installed in 2000, so it's fairly young. Life expectancy, 50 to 75 years. Half or less, yes. That is a fair statement.
Kind of expect to see some of these, or are these just a surprise for us?
Surprise at this state of its age. This was not on our radar.
I got a couple questions in addition. So, part of this is wear from the outside in, right? And so how do you evaluate underground pipe from the outside in? If it's inside out, you could televise and see, but, you could be having bad points on the outside that don't show in a televising, but 2 years from later it could pop open.
Yep.
So how do they do that the whole length of the pipe? Because it could be, you do sample area, you could just miss it.
Yep. So I'll answer that in two parts, President Hubble. For the exterior, you're doing the environment ultimately. What are the soil conditions, additional sampling? You're not actually going down to the pipe. So you're getting what is the environmental factors that we found from the lab analysis. Is that in this location, that location, and then beyond? Or is it isolated? That'll kind of give us an idea of, are we just in the wetland area, or is it up, more upstream towards pumping station 4, that John Nolan Drive area? Is it by Birmingham Park? So at least can give us some potential risk areas. The interior, the condition assessment, we would use, one technology out there is an Ingu piper, ultimately, that we can send that through the whole force main, and it'll get densities of the pipe to determine the actual wall thickness, and it'll measure if we have full wall or less wall, meaning corrosion is occurring.
You're taking soil samples and that along the pipe to try to verify this, from what soil maps might say?
That would be to be determined. This would be part of the scope
part
development.
Of the work plan.
Yep,
Okay.
part of the work plan.
Okay, Beth, and then Patrick?
Just a follow-up question. So the new pipe that we're putting in, is it going to be like resistant to some of these environmental factors that are causing this?
There is protections that you can put on the pipes. So a ductile iron pipe, you put a polyethylene encasement on there. The existing pipe does have that. But it has to be effective, installed, correct. Technology has advanced since this pipe was put in. And then there's also cathodic protection that can be put on the pipe too, which this does not have it. So that's all part of the work plan development, preliminary engineering, what are our options out there. There are options, I do want to state that. We just need to determine what and where. That'll help us for, yes, the environment. That'll develop kind of that root cause, and then the internal assessment ultimately, and define more of the extents of where we have good pipe and high-risk pipe.
So I'm not a pipeline condition assessment expert, but I slept at a Holiday Inn Express last night. The obvious question comes to my mind is, given this material of construction and age, as you stated, this is not something that would be by default in a high-risk portion of our system if we were risk scoring the system. Are there similar pipe force main of similar vintage, and do we have any correlation we might say in terms of soil characteristics where there are 3 or 4 other force mains in the system that might need to follow based on what we see with this condition assessment?
That would be part of discussions with planning manager, Mr. Giebert, and there are other force mains that have been analyzed. There's also others in the CIP that are forthcoming. But do we have other pipes in wetland areas? Of course, we're low, flat, and deep, as I call it, and those are wet areas. We're the lowest part of the collection system. But vintage, age, soil conditions, every location is case by case. So do we have all the data from soil analysis on the other pipes? No. But if we need it to help us guide us, those are part of, scope development, work plans, what information is needed to create the best engineered solution at the right cost.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Dan?
Commissioner Pelt, one question. You said that you can send something through to tell the density of the, is that fairly expensive? Is that something we should be doing every 5 years or 10 years or something on pipes just in general? Because since you can't, and that was the only reason you knew that leaked is it just happened that it was on the ground. Is there any way it's proactive?
It's built into the proposed budget here with the scope, but I'll let Mr. Dundee continue on the answer.
Yeah, Eric Dundee, Executive Director. That's one thing that we are looking for in the strategic plan is to have that asset condition index done. Drilling down into that is force main inspection program. So it is expensive. We'll just say it right up front. So this is an innovative thing for us to do. We've been tracking, and I say we in the royal sense. Jen Hurlebus has been working on that. We know we want to find out what the conditions of these pipes are. And as Darren talked about, every location is a little bit different, including our pumping characteristics, how big the pipe is, what type of pipe it is. So it's in the CIP for us. You're going to see that. That's one of the things that we're kind of driving toward.
One thing, I mean, doing it to know how bad the pipes are, but that was a public relations issue when that blew up over there. Because, I mean, I live on Lake Wabisa. Everybody said, well, we have weeds now because it blew up and it went down into the lake. Well, it wasn't true, but that's what everybody sees, and all of a sudden that goes Facebook everywhere. I mean, it's right. It does. They're not A and B going together. It was A and Z. But just doing proactive. I don't know if you get that type of equipment and use it or rent it or whatever, but it might be something to think about for the future.
Okay. Excuse me. Anybody else? Badri.
Yeah, so quick question, John Nolan Drive, is that, location-wise, is it anywhere closer to that reconstruction, John Nolan?
The construction project that's occurring is east of, right by the substation, if that's what you're referring to. Is nothing to do with the pipe break discovery that we had.
Okay.
Answering your question.
Yeah,
Is
so
that
I'm just
landing?
trying to find if it's in the same area and impacts of that construction project or anything that we can use there for while they're doing their work and he helps with that with the work-wise. Is it, have
Different levels of scope, different expertise that are on site versus what's needed here. But good question. All right. Thanks for your time. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.
Yep. Thank you. Oh, do we have any action we had to take? Yep. So no more questions. So we have the resolution. Do we have a motion to approve?
Commissioner Buckland, I'll move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Bookland,
Commissioner Lankela?
second by Commissioner Lankela. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay. That will take us to review and approval of executive director's, performance goals for 2026, quarter one and quarter two. Ezra?
Morning, everyone. Commissioner Meyer, Vice President, but also Chair for this year anyway, of the Subcommittee on Executive Director Performance Review. So I think as everybody knows, we've been, we've hired a consultant, MGT, that are helping us kind of review our whole process for annual performance review of the Executive Director. And meanwhile, they've been on since last fall. We did annual review at the end of last year, working off of some first year goals we had for Eric in the position. But then the MGT process plays out over the first couple quarters of this year. So Eric rightfully said it'd be nice to have some goals that I'm working off of at least the first half of this year, while we're kind of in this in between stage. We're waiting to work with MGT and have a process that we're going to use going forward for review. But so that made tons of sense. It came to us at the subcommittee, and we worked on this a bit, got some initial ideas from Eric, and we ended up with a final set that we're bringing forward, recommending to the whole commission to take a look at and hopefully approve by resolution today. So these goals are for the first half of the year is the idea. The review process with MGT could and should come online in time that for the second half of the year we'll have something else to work with, most likely. But these are at least to cover the first two quarters. And of course, we're kind of about halfway through that already, right? So Eric's been working off of essentially these goals now, through the first part of the year, and we'll be able to use these at mid-year for review, kind of in our, following more or less our process from the past. So that's what we're bringing forward today is this set of goals that you can see in the packet, which again we saw at the committee level and feel good about, and I think Eric feels good about. It's up on the screen there. I think we could take questions if there are any for Eric or for me and the others on the subcommittee, and I think Tom has a specific idea to bring forward as well.
Yeah, so when I was looking at the goals, and I discussed this with Eric a little bit, so under organizational alignment, but you go back to the organizational line, yeah. So between the two existing bullets, we would add another bullet that would read, excuse me, develop a training program for district leadership, including the executive director, to empower and set guidelines for directors, managers, and supervisors in the new organizational structure. Yep. Develop a training program for district leadership, including the executive director, to empower and set guidelines for directors, managers, and supervisors in the new organizational structure. So with the new organizational structure, I think it's the training that's for the supervisors, giving, where setting the power levels, basically, particularly in personnel matters. Patrick?
At first glance, given where we're at in the year, the training plan might need to be pretty much an outline. I was wondering whether you would consider adding that to the bullet around new org alignment structure, including director goals, executive management team, and initial training plan outline. I mean, I don't know how. I know you're saying a plan, not actually implement the plan, but it seems pretty tied in to that first goal. But again, I don't think your expectation is that all the new supervisors and managers will be fully trained in the first 6 months. It's just kind of clarifying what you were expecting in terms of that.
It's what I'm expecting is more or less a plan to move ahead with the training. So, and I think you've been working on some of that. So that's my idea, that it would be to have, by the end of the first half of the year, basically have a plan, and then because it would probably take a few years to implement the number of managers and trainers, supervisors, depending on how the plan says to move ahead with it. Yeah. Dan?
One thing on goals, I was taught that you should have deadlines on them to some extent, because these are is this all supposed to be done by June 30th or by 12/31, or right now it's just, I mean, it's better for Eric and, because which one do you prioritize they should get done by June and what to get done by the end of the year? Just usually when I set goals for people is first quarter, you're supposed to have this done, and things change because time and busyness, but you still should have some type of, how can you measure it? Because this you would take until 12/31. If he doesn't have any of them done until 12/31 and then gets them all done, good, but that's just when I set goals.
Yeah, Eric Dunn, the Executive Director. So, on that note, knowing that we were in this transition period, I was just trying to get some documentation down that says something I can report on, for progress. So, didn't really look at this as, setting deadlines and timelines for them as much as it's just about tracking it for now. I mean, there are some things like in the reporting section that are very specific to, when reporting is done at the end of quarters and things like that. But otherwise, yeah, I did purposely try to stay away from any kind of deadline in this, knowing we're in a transition. Yeah, and MGT the consultant should hopefully help with that.
I will say we there are a number of things here that we talked about as to be finished by 30, by the end of the second quarter. Some of these are written as kind of continuing or ongoing stuff, right? And that, we can always talk about whether we want to make every single thing a SMART goal and not have continuing things, but I think there's room for both myself. But here there are definitely some pieces that we talked about as to be done by the mid-year point. All the strategic plan pieces, KPIs, 3-year work plan, right? Those, and tell me if I'm wrong, Eric, I thought of those as things that were on track to finish up in the first half of the year.
You used the word very specifically. Yes, it's a goal. That's what we're aiming for.
I want to recognize the work of the team here. I know that you put a lot of thought and effort into this, and appreciate that. And I recognize that it's for the first half of this year, which we're halfway through already. And then coming up on the next half of the year, I'd like to see a couple of things added to this, maybe, for the subcommittee to consider, especially under organization and thinking about organizational excellence and how we can really build on what you've started to improve the organization. So, and I'm thinking about building a workforce of the future. So what would that look like? And how can we sustain that? And so things to think about along those lines would be promotions within. We talked about training just now, and I think training is excellent. Glad to see that added. But I think of retention of key employees is going to be important going forward. Promotions, succession planning, and rewards and recognition of employees. So, incorporating all of that into your goals for the next half of the year, I think would be important to help with organizational excellence, and maybe we could even call that out.
You're suggesting this for the second half of the year?
Yes.
Okay, so not adding
Not to add now.
but to keep in mind for the second half.
Yes, yes.
That we to discuss in June or.
Yep.
Okay, so given the discussion we had, I'm wondering if we should change the bullet that I had recommended to say initiate the development of a training program. So that gives time for, knowing that might move beyond to start it, yeah. Okay, so any further discussion? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the goals as amended?
I'll move the approval of the resolution with a note to add to the goals that the resolution points to, the modified one that Tom just read off.
Motion by Commissioner Myers, second by
Commissioner Lytle.
Commissioner Lytle. Any further discussion? Anybody have their hands up? No. Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? None, motion carries. Okay. That will take us to the project update for Reliability-Centered Maintenance Program. Matthew Schuman and Eric Greer.
I'm Eric Greer, Maintenance and Reliability Manager for the district. And Matthew Schuman, Operations Reliability Manager. So today we wanted to give a brief update on the Reliability Center Maintenance Program, or RCM as the acronym we use internally. So from an agenda perspective, we just want to quickly go over what it is, so a refresher on what that means. Go into some actual results we're seeing on the focus area we've had for probably the past year and a half. And then as well as talk about how we're working to align this program with some of the future objectives of the organization. So if there's one thing I hope you take away from today, other than we're seeing some really good results, is RCM is not different or separate from asset management. It's a piece of it, right? And really what it is it's focused on maintaining and extending the useful life of our existing assets. We're really doing that through focusing on operations and maintenance practices. So by improving those practices, we can extend useful life. The other benefit of this is if we do it consistently and we use an enterprise asset management system, an EAM, consistently, we can capture data, and that data is a direct input into our future asset investment decisions, asset condition decisions, et cetera. So it's got really two main benefits and why we're focusing on it. When we talk about what we worked on for the past year, I'd like to start with commissioning. Really what that means is preparing the district to take ownership of an asset and utilize that asset over its life. And really when we talk about commissioning here, we talk about capturing critical data elements that help us manage our assets. So I think the best analogy I can give you is you have a vehicle maybe, and that vehicle needs parts or service. You're going to call somebody and they're going to immediately ask you for some information. What's the year? What's the manufacturer? What's the model? So that's pretty easy if you have one car, right? Even I remember that, I think. When you have 8,000 assets that have been installed over a period of 30 to 50 years, that can become more difficult than it would seem, right? So that's just one example of some of the data points that we're trying to capture. Really the work that we've done is clearly identifying, documenting the process. And on the slide to the left, I don't expect you to read all that. It's more for perspective, but capturing this data is really a organizational-wide initiative and activity. And the first thing we did is document that clearly and set some expectations for how that process should work. By doing that allows us to measure effectiveness. And I think the chart on the right really is about, since we've implemented these routines the past year, we've seen a 93% reduction in the amount of newly installed assets since 2022 that are missing critical required information from an operations and maintenance perspective. So these are new things. In the past, we couldn't track this process. Now I can run a report real time that'll show me the state of our asset data integrity. It's a pretty big milestone for our organization. Work planning, hopefully this isn't a new thing. We've talked about this in the past, but we continue to work on work planning because it's a critical piece of how we get more efficient and effective in completing our work. Just a refresher on what work planning is, it's based on the premise that understanding or prepping jobs to be completed takes a considerable amount of time. You need to know what parts you need. You need to know where to get them from. You need to order them. You need to receive them. You need to prep shutdowns with operations to complete the work. This is all before you even get hands on the equipment. In the past, that work was completed by our technicians. So after completing jobs in the field, they'd come back to their desk and also be responsible for prepping new work. In 2023, with the support of the commission, we created 2 full-time work maintenance planner roles. Those positions immediately took those administrative duties off the technician's plate. So that immediately gave time back for them to work in the field. But I think the other benefit we're really seeing is streamlining our work management processes. So The charts I'm showing here are just overdue high priority and medium priority work orders in our backlog. We've seen really good focus and reductions of these throughout 2025, and in the first part of 2026, we're either at zero or very low single digits for these overdue items in planning. And I just wanted to add, just for perspective, planners prepped over 1,200 jobs for our mechanical and electrical maintenance crews that should say in 2025. Hopefully it's more in 2026. I'll clarify that on the fly. But this is really getting ready and preparing things for handoff to Eric's crew.
Commissioner Hubble. Scheduling is a key component of our work order processes. Maintenance supervisors weekly develop weekly schedules for the next week with pre-planned work orders based on the number of technician hours available. So they're basically looking to fill the technicians' buckets for the next week of work the week prior. On a weekly basis, after we do that work week, we're looking at the previous week's schedule and looking at the schedule compliance, which is a critical KPI we look at that measures the percentage of the scheduled work that was completed. In an ideal world, we'd be able to complete everything we scheduled the previous week, but that rarely happens. We have things like emergencies, weather, parts issues, contractor issues, et cetera. All those things get in the way of us completing our schedules. By measuring schedule compliance, we can see the health of our planning that Matt just mentioned and scheduling processes. Also see a snapshot into the health of our equipment. If we're not having a lot of break-in work orders, that means our equipment's healthier. If we're getting our work done on time in the allotted amount of hours, that means our planning is correct. In 2025, each work group, our 5 maintenance teams listed there on the chart on the left, they had a schedule compliance over 70%, with 3 groups near or over 80%. From 2024 to 2025, we saw an overall increase of 6.6% of schedule compliance, with each work group showing improvement. Schedule compliances of this level are an indicator of accurate planning, high technician competency, and execution, and reliable equipment. Our current goal for our work groups is 80% schedule compliance. And just for a reference, like a world-class organization is 85 to 95%. So we're on our way there. Each year we're getting better. Move into the slide on the right, backlog. So one of the domino effects of proper planning and scheduling is backlog reduction. When we first started, or before we started RCM, when I first started in this role, we had a high backlog. We just simply looked at our backlog and said, we have a high backlog, we have more work than we can get done, we need more people. And that's one way you can look at it. Or you can dive into it deeper like we did and see if it's a measure of inefficiency in planning and scheduling and execution of the work. Things like constantly running back to the shop for parts, replanning work with the wrong parts, scheduling technicians to basically go all over the collection system and do jobs, having a bunch of windshield time each day. They might seem minor, for every work order for every day, but they add up over time, and they reduce the amount of work that can be completed in a year. So for us, it was the latter. We were inefficient in our processes, but starting RCM in, I believe, 2022, and then work planning in 2023, that we saw a marked improvement. During 2025, we saw a decrease in active schedulable backlog of 24% without adding any additional staff. So the top line on the plot on the right is over our total backlog. The bottom is corrective, and then the difference would be like preventative maintenance work orders. But just looking at the top line, we had about 7.5 weeks of active backlog. At the end of the year, we had 5.5 weeks. 2-week reduction. This backlog reduction is a result of proper work order planning and scheduling and efficient execution of the work by our staff. For reference, a healthy backlog is 4 to 6 weeks, and we're within that range now.
Who sets the 4 to 6 weeks?
That's an industry standard. So overall, when you're properly planning and scheduling work, you're simply going to get more work done. Since implementing the dedicated scheduling in planning in 2023, and weekly scheduling along with that,
We've seen a total increase in work order tasks completed of 35%. So in 2022, we're around 7,000 tasks completed per year. We did peak around almost 10,000 in 2024, but I think last year was a good year as well, about 9,500 in 2025. Okay, inventory management. It's important for our software systems to accurately reflect the amount of parts we have in stock. And not having the right amount of parts reflected in inventory has both scheduling and operational impacts. Historically, we only counted our inventory once a year in December. This was a very large effort, taking almost all of our maintenance staff to do this count once a year. And often some pretty large adjustments in the system to account for parts that were not properly accounted for. So in 2024, we started moving to more frequent inventory counts based on priority. This has directly led to reductions in adjustments as well as labor required to perform the year-end count, all while making the inventory in our system more accurate. So with that, RCM and asset management will continue to be key initiatives for the district. Organizational realignment will allow for greater opportunities to move both initiatives forward. Both RCM and asset management processes will continue to feed into the new ERP or Workday implementation we have going on right now. And they'll also be key inputs into the new EAM system when we begin implementation of that. Finally, RCM and asset management are both tools that feed into some of the strategic performance areas that you've seen and the associated KPIs. So, Matt, take any questions.
Patrick?
I'm going to resist the urge to ask all the questions around asset management nerd style, but I wanted to make sure you all had the opportunity to kind of explain how the current EAM, MMS is enabling this versus forcing you to track data in multiple systems. Like, I don't know how effectively OWAM is able to generate these kind of reports. And then, you know, how you envision the next EAM being able to operationalize this and make the data management side of it more efficient as well.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think from the perspective of WAM, it has all the fields required to manage a best practice maintenance program. What was missing was consistent usage of the system across all departments. So that's been the focus the past years, is how do we use their existing system consistently? And that's really about understanding what you want and need from both the current system and your next system. So everything you see on there are exports out of WAM using a system called Optimus, but only enabled by data fields that we use consistently by basically our entire operations and maintenance workforce. So really what that's given us is a list of items that we want in the future, because by tracking these KPIs, you can see the results. We're seeing some really good results by doing this work. So we know now what we want to track and do. I think the benefit is WAM is 97 was the first variation of WAM that we had. So you have new softwares where I think we can look for opportunities to streamline all this, right? But I would say a lot of the behaviors and activities we expect from operations and maintenance staff of clearly tracking their work consistently still maintain and stay in place. It's just how you do that more efficiently, I think, is the focus of our next system. I think the other piece of that, sorry to add, is feeding future asset management, right? Something that we haven't done a great job of today and is really embedded with future enterprise asset management. Hopefully that answers your question.
So I can, excuse me, have a follow-up to that. Do we use like barcodes and anything on all our parts, or, you know, like types of parts?
We do have barcodes on our asset tags, but we don't have any scanner tool or anything that links those codes to.
Will that change with the new system?
Yeah, everything should be, you know, with a mobile device, be able to scan the codes in the system and relate back to the new system.
Then, one other question I have is, when we're doing reconstruction or new construction or whatever, do we try to use same parts that we already have in the system, or do we, because of the changes in technology, or are we always looking at newer things, so therefore we have to have the old parts and the midpoint parts and the new parts? And
So when scoping like a larger CIP project, we would try, if we can, to use similar parts that we have, or similar components to where we have parts in inventory. Not always possible. But, say we have a project where we want to put a bunch of rotary low pumps in. Well, we already have a lot of Borger rotary pumps here, so we try to incorporate that into the next that project, so we have less inventory, less spare parts, less to manage.
when I worked our public works department, I always wanted the same kind of truck, same brand, and so that they had fewer parts and move the truck, yeah. Okay, Dan?
A geeky accountant question. If you went back, what was our adjustment for? Was either 1,000 or 1 million? I couldn't quite tell. I went back by two. Okay. Oh, because you must have had cents on there too.
I think so, yeah.
That's why it looked like it was millions.
Yeah, so I can definitely adjust that for next time.
That's fine. I mean, just like I thought it was a million. I almost had a heart attack. Are you back?
No, so just for, I think,
See, I couldn't. Looked like 1.9 million there or something.
1,959 and 54 cents.
Then that's too. You guys are doing too. You should have.
And just for perspective, our current total inventory value is around 1.9 million, so.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, anybody else have anything? Greg or, Ken?
I do not, Tom.
Good? Okay. Greg's been awfully quiet today, so.
Nope, I'm good. I'm good too, Tom. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so thank you very much for that report. It was helpful. Oh, yeah. Ezra?
I just want to go back to the last item, and Amy's here, and I want to take a moment to recognize her, because she's been a great help on pulling together the commission agenda report for that last item on our subcommittee. She helped me a bunch with that, and she's been a great help through this whole process with MGT. So she's here, and we appreciate her. So I wanted to just say it really quickly, even if it's not better late than never, right? So thanks, Amy.
Thanks,
Sorry, Tom,
Amy.
thank you.
I didn't even see you back there. Okay. That will lead us to the reports. Executive Director report.
Yep, I only have one item today. Just a notice, we had a treatment facility overflow at TFO last Monday at about 2 a.m. That was in our dissolved air flotation tanks, our DAF tanks. About 10 gallons came out of a vent onto the pavement. No environmental impacts, didn't go anywhere, but like to make sure we're transparent and noting those. That's the only report I have today.
Okay. Thank you. Ezra, anything else?
Yeah, the really quick update I would give on the committee, apart from what we talked about earlier, is we just met with MGT last week, started to see some work product from them on the new process that they're teeing up for us, and they'll be back for another touch point with us at the subcommittee sometime when they're ready with sort of version 2.0, responding to our comments last week, and then we'll come back to the commission with it as soon as we can. We were thinking this month. I think it's not going to be this month. April, though, hopefully. Certainly by May, but I think we're in that sort of April-May time frame now. We will be back to the commission with something to really kick at and dig your teeth into. Thank you. That's it for us.
Okay. Thanks, Ezra. Anybody have any questions? Greg, anything to report from your meeting on Monday?
Yeah, just briefly, we did meet with Ben and Eric and Bill and discussed a few options with regard to the new use of the lockbox that the district implemented late last year to accept payments and some options there. And also, probably most importantly, with regard to the cash management investment approach, we have a little more work to do with that, and Ben has some recommendations to bring back. But that's it for this month.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Oh, okay. Regulatory and legal, Vanessa?
Morning, Commissioners. Vanessa Wishart, Legal Counsel for the District. I have a legal report for everyone this morning on our work over the last month. So we had a relatively quiet month, actually, for general work for the district. We had a couple of questions about open records that we addressed with district staff, and continued to work on some pre-treatment permits as well with district staff, as well as some questions about some slightly tricky annexations that are moving forward. And then otherwise just worked with commissioners on commission meeting agendas, worked with staff on commission meeting agendas and preparation for commission meetings. The only other thing I wanted to report is I think I gave an update last month on the PFAS bills at the legislature that they did pass the assembly. I believe the last day for the Senate is the 17th of March, coming up here fairly quickly. We can definitely anticipate that we'll see those bills as amended in the assembly on the list for bills that will hopefully be passed through the Senate, and then I think we're anticipating would be signed by the governor. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Vanessa. Anybody have any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to, we have the future meeting schedule. That, as always, is in the packet. If you're not going to be able to attend the meeting or be virtual, please let staff know so they can and put it on the calendar so we get a little bit of a heads up. Okay, that takes us to closed sessions where we have two of them, so I have to read them both. The Commission may convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19851G for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is likely to become involved, which it is or is likely to become involved regarding EEOC claims. Second is the Commission may convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute Section 19.85, paren 1, paren G, conferring with legal counsel is rendering oral and written advice concerning strategy with respect to Circuit Court Case Number 2024 CV 3109, Court of Appeals Case Number 2025-AP-1725, City of Verona versus Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved, Commissioner Meyer.
Second, Commissioner.
Motion by Meyer, seconded by Lankala. Do we, can you do a roll call?
Commissioner Bookland?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Freeze?
Aye.
Commissioner Hovell?
Aye.
Commissioner Lonkella? Commissioner Lytle?
I, with a note that I will recuse myself for the second closed session item.
Commissioner Meyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Pulse?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll adjourn into the other room. Okay, we had a motion by Commissioner Bookland, seconded by Commissioner Pulse to move back into open session. Did a roll call vote. Everybody voted aye, except for Commissioner Lytle, who left after the first closed session, so he didn't participate in the second one, and did the vote, obviously, after the second. So, we have nothing to report on 6B. We just heard some more information regarding that. And so on 6A, Ezra?
Yeah, I'm going to move that we execute a settlement agreement on the Equal Rights Division claim that came to the district.
Okay, and authorize the president to sign.
And authorize, the president to sign that agreement so that it can move forward.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second by Commissioner
Second by
Montella.
Commissioner Lankala. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? None? Okay, motion carries. Okay, so that will take us to future agenda topics. I don't think we have any today. And any other business? And adjournment. Ken?
Motion to adjourn, Commissioner Clark.
Motion by Commissioner
Second,
Clark,
Commission-
second by Commissioner
Freeze.
Yep. Okay, motion by Clark, second by Freeze. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
See you, everybody. Thanks.